In this video, we're going to take a look at strings, a closer look. We've dealt with them before this semester, but we're really going to take an exhaustive look at strings and see what all we can do with them. So we'll start off kind of simple, just as a review more than anything, but you can have a string that looks like this, and you know, it's sort of like lists. Strings are, they have a position in a string that is kind of represented like what we're showing here, where S is 0 and T is 1 and U is number 2 there. These are the positions in the string, kind of like a list, where a list has position 0, position 1, and so forth. Strings are similar in some ways, but they're not exactly like lists. They're different for sure, a different structure. But like a list, we can do something like this. We can say text, let's see, for each character in the, actually that should be text right there, shouldn't it? Yeah, so for each character in the text string, print a character. And if we run that, we will see here that we have stuff printed. 1 character per line. And again, that's a lot like a list. Now we can also print the index position of a string. So if we print 0, I'm sorry, actually, I made a mistake there. Let's see, I left out the actual variable name, which is the text string. So if we print the 0 position of the string, what do you think that's going to print based off these numbers here? It's going to print S. Whoops, well, it printed a lot of stuff, didn't it? And if we print a 3, it's going to print one of the F's. Now, interestingly, what if we print 5? You say, well, there is no position 5, and you're right. So we should get an index out of bounds error, and we do. We've gone beyond the confines of the string. And so the Python interpreter is saying, I don't know what you want me to do here. And let's see, just like with a list, similar, we can print the length. We can access the length of a string, whatever that might be. So if we run this, it prints 5. If we add, some more characters to it, now it will print 8. And this is how you programmatically get the length of a string. We comment that out. We can do, with strings, we can do what's called string concatenation. So we can combine strings. We can say maybe Michael Jordan, last equals Jordan. And then we can say goat equals first plus the last. And now if we print this out, what do you think it's going to say all together? It's going to combine the two together. No, we're not adding these. This is the addition operator that you could add numbers with, but in this case, when it's applied to a string, it concatenates the string. And why do we have this space here? Well, we don't. It would all run. It would all run together like this. It would all be one word like that, because it just puts them together. It doesn't add a string. It doesn't add a space for you. Other interesting things about strings, these are all just items for your toolbox. When you learn a language, you want to learn the nuances of that language and use those as tools to solve specific problems with. The more you know about programming in general, then the more you know about any given language. A lot of programming principles are universal, but when you get into language specific things, you have to learn those so you can pull those out when you need them. So if you're working in Python, then it's helpful to know something like this. If we say song equals, and this is back to what we talked about in an earlier module, a theme I had was the 99 bottles of beer on the wall. So let's see, we can say song plus equals bottles. And remember what plus equals is the same as, let me just paste this under, whoops, paste this down here, comment it out. We can say song equals song plus, that's really what we're saying when we say song plus equals. We dealt with this and mostly in the context of numbers earlier, but you can use this abbreviated assignment for this as well. So let's keep going here. Let's say song plus equals when we get done with all this, what do you think it's going to say when we print out song? Well, it should all be one long string now, and it is. By combining each one of these, it doesn't overwrite it. Now, if we just do this, what would it say now? What would be the content of the song string at this point? Just wall, because it overwrote everything that was there, as opposed to appending wall to what was already there. That's a good way of looking at this operator. It's more like appending something. So let me comment out this. One interesting thing to point out, if you are going to go deeper in Python, I think we're developing a more advanced course as well in Python. That's kind of like part 2 of this course, but it's not required like this course is. Python treats strings as, strings are immutable. What that means is you can't change a string. And you say, well, we just changed a string up here. Yeah, Python lets you think you are. It gives you the illusion that you're changing a string, but there are times when it becomes very obvious that you cannot change a string in Python. What's happening here is Python is actually creating a new string and feeding you back the new string, sort of implicitly under the table. You don't see it happening. But there are things you cannot do with a string that you probably think you should be able to, especially if you remember the lists module. For example, if we say, let's see, I don't know, let's see, roses are red, sounds good. And if we say that we are going to, remember how we did the index position earlier, we can iterate through a list and print, like here. And earlier I thought we had shown an example of printing just maybe we didn't. I guess I can show it here. We can say text 0, and we'll print the R part of the text, or 2, and it'll print S. This should be familiar to you from the lists module, but look at this. If we wanted to say, okay, I'm just going to change the value of R, the first R, the capital R, to a lowercase r. Can you do this? If strings were changeable, or mutable is the programming term, if they were mutable, yes, you could do this, but you can't because strings are actually not mutable. There are times when it looks like strings are changeable, but that's only because Python is feeding you back a new version of the string. In this case, we run this and we're going to get an exception because it's saying that the string object does not support being able to go in and change one element of a string. Just, hey, I want to change this part of the string. You can't do that. What you can do, what you absolutely can do, is this right here. You can redefine the string. Like this. That's what we were trying to do, is change that R. And this is perfectly, perfectly valid here. If you print this out, now it will show you, yeah. But you can't change a string. And there's an interesting way of proving this. If we come over to here and we say print the ID of the string variable. And believe it or not, you can get, Python assigns a unique ID to every object that you put into memory. So when we put something into memory, like this variable here, we're storing roses are red in a specific place in memory, Python generates an ID. So if we take that ID, we're going to print out the ID of text here, and then, let's see, we're going to come down here, and I'm thinking about just putting this away for now. And down here, if we said text plus equals and violets are blue. So we have done this plus equals assignment operator again to add text on. And again, this looks like it's modifying the string, but it's really not. And here's how we're gonna prove that. I'm gonna print the ID of text before we do anything to it, and then I'm going to print the ID of text after we've appended text to it. If it was the same exact object, they would have the same number, but they don't. They have two different numbers. And see, look, if I print this again, notice how the bottom two will be the same, but not the top. If I print this, then the top two will be the same and the bottom two will be the same, but otherwise they'll be different. See? That's because both times this printed, it referenced this one object, and both times this printed, it's referencing that object. But these are two different objects in memory. That's what's happening here. That's why we say strings are not mutable. They're immutable, because you really can't change a string. All you can really do is create a new string and overwrite that part of memory with the same variable name. A little bit of a technical explanation, maybe more technical than we need to get into, but if you go on to the more advanced Python course, we'll explore that a little bit more. Now let's get into string, actually before we get into that, string slicing is what I was going to say, but let's go ahead and take a quick look here at string slicing. Is like list slicing. So if we take a title to a movie called Back to the Future, if we want to say, I want the first word we're going to put index 0, 4. So what we're saying is, give me from position 0 to position 4. Remember up here? Positions, right? 0 through whatever. 0 through how many ever length this is long. I haven't counted it, so I don't know. But if we run this, it's going to give us the word back. Well, it gives us nothing because I didn't print it, right? Here we go. It's actually there in memory, but we don't have a way of seeing it unless we print it. That's why we print this. So it prints from position 0 to position 4. This is also valid, because if we don't specify 0, it assumes 0. I can do 3 to 4, which would be K. But changing this back for a moment, we can slice it, the last word, just as an example. The last word would be, let's see, title. And this would get from position 12 to the end of the string. Again, if we print this, run it, we get, well, we're printing both, but yeah, you see where it's happening. We get the last part of the word. We can slice this up however we want. This is extremely powerful to be able to slice strings this quickly with such little effort. I mean, other languages, this takes more code than this. This is where Python really shines, is with text manipulation. And then, just to show you that we don't have to slice along even words. I mean, we can slice this any way we want. But we could, for example, get 3 to 6, just sort of an odd slice, I guess. And, whoops. Print that. And it's not liking the parentheses, no problem. So now when we run this, just K and T, just some random parts of the deal here. So I think that's pretty interesting as well. And I think that what we'll do here, since we've hit about the 15-minute mark in the video, I'm just going to maybe leave the rest of our discussion for part 2 of the video, just so the videos are not so overwhelming.